Ian Zhou and I spent 20 years as a resentful couple. During our worst fight, he gripped my neck and demanded why Liana Jiang had become the marriage alliance candidate instead, why it wasn't me who died. I laughed and told him it was his incompetence, his failure to protect Liana Jiang. After years of marriage, we knew each other's deepest wounds and aimed precisely for them. Yet, on the day of the rebellion, Ian Zhou shielded me with his last strength, taking several arrows to his chest and dying in my arms. With his final breath, he wiped my tears, his face serene with relief. Don't cry. All these years, I've truly grown weary. If there's a next life, let us release each other. I wish to find her. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Nanzhao Kingdom requested a marriage alliance. I no longer resisted, volunteering myself for the alliance. This time, I resolved to grant Ian Zhou his wish. Queen, have you chosen your husband? Do you still insist on marrying Ian Zhou? Father Emperor's voice echoed through the hall. A sharp pain in my knees jolted me back to reality. I bowed my head. This royal child requests to join the marriage alliance with Nanzhao. Nanzhao's missive sought a princess for marriage, and only Liana Jiang and I were of suitable age. Father Emperor intended for me to choose a husband in the capital, yet at that time, my eyes could only see Ian Zhou, receiving the heavy imperial edict with both hands. I bowed deeply once more before turning to exit the throne hall. Outside the hall, a fine rain fell like woven silk. Ian Zhou's figure remained waiting at the foot of the steps, his robes completely drenched. Seeing him soak through, I instinctively raised my hand to brush away the moisture, but he sidestepped my gesture, his gaze falling upon the bright yellow scroll in my hand. His expression instantly shifting, he abruptly knelt in the rain-soaked ground, his voice urgent. Your Highness, please beg your Majesty to revoke the decree. The seventh princess is willful and unruly, utterly unsuited for a marriage alliance. Gazing at that familiar, handsome profile, a bitter ache rose in my throat, which I forcibly suppressed. Ian Zhou, you would kneel before me. For her, he bowed even lower, his forehead pressing against the cold stone steps. This subject dares not. It is only that the seventh princess has been frail since childhood. If she were to wed far away in Nanzhao Kingdom, if she goes, she will die. I let out a sudden, soft laugh, my voice tinged with hoarseness. Then do you believe I am suited for it? Ian Zhou abruptly looked up. This subject has no such intention. I only seek a solution that satisfies both sides. I volunteer to lead the campaign and repel the Nanzhao Kingdom. I knew what he was thinking. In his view, because Mother Empress died giving birth to her, I must despise Liana Jiang. At this moment, he expected me to hit her when she's down. The dark circles under his eyes showed he had lost sleep for nights over this marriage alliance matter. If this were before, I would have seized the chance to throw myself into his arms and demand he promise to stay with me. But now, I just felt utterly weary in body and soul. I withdrew my gaze and said indifferently, I agree. Liana Jiang will not go through with the marriage alliance. Ian Zhou sighed in relief, and as he stood, he finally noticed the exhaustion on my face. He instinctively took out a handkerchief to wipe my tears, but I avoided his touch. His hand froze mid-air. I smiled faintly and handed him the imperial edict. Just as he was about to unroll it, I stopped him. Read it. Half a month from now. I gazed at him deeply for a moment, straightened my back, and turned to leave. Your Highness. He grabbed my wrist, his voice urgent with promise. You need not worry. I will marry you. Tears silently fell from the corners of her eyes. Marry him? What meaning would it hold? The one he truly loved was never me. All these years, I watched him transform from an ambitious youth into a brooding, powerful minister. Step by step, he laid deadly traps with a smile. Yet after Liana Jiang's death, he never showed joy again. Only after dying, once did I finally understand completely. Some loves are destined never to bear good fruit. This time, I will be the one to set him free. I walked for a long time, finally reaching the top of the bell tower that Father Emperor had built for Mother Empress. Mother Empress loved Father Emperor deeply. loved him until her heart broke. She died in a difficult birth. Yet it was more than just that. Father Emperor loved her. Yet, after her passing, the imperial harem was never empty. And what of me? I bound Ian Zhou for 10 or 20 years with so-called love, only to end with both of us wounded. The wind tugged wildly at my skirts. I stayed alone until dusk enveloped everything. Footsteps sounded behind me. Ian Zhou paled instantly upon seeing me sitting at that dangerous edge. "Your Highness, what are you doing?" I met his gaze with a faint smile. "It's nothing, just enjoying the view. From here, one can overlook the entire imperial city, an opportunity that, for me, is already few and far between." Ian Zhou breathed a sigh of relief, strode over, and gripped my wrist tightly. "Don't make me worry. Don't come here alone again." His tone carried concern. I remained silent. He had always been like this, even without love, treating me well out of habit and duty. Yet, what I yearned for was his genuine affection. If only he would spare me a glance now. He would notice the hairpin from the Nanzhao Kingdom's marriage proposal tucked in my hair. But he did not. Ian Zhou handed me a wooden box. "Your birthday gift." I looked at him. My birthday is still some time away. I feared I might forget amid future busyness. He explained, "Prepared it early so you wouldn't be upset with me later." Hearing his words, I fell silent again. He seemed to sense my unease, softening his voice. "Queen, we are to be married. Though I agreed to your wish to wed you, I cannot ignore the seventh princess's safety." Before he could finish, my heart sank like a stone. You must know how tragic the fate of that princess sent for a marriage alliance in the previous dynasty was. I absolutely cannot let her follow the same path. His words were filled with genuine emotion. I suddenly felt a flicker of anticipation. What expression would he wear if he knew I was the one to be married off to the Nanzhao Kingdom? Ian Zhou continued to gently persuade me. "The seventh princess is your only sister. From now on, you must yield to her in all matters." I clenched my hands inside my sleeves, a sharp pang piercing my heart. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "Fine, I'll yield everything to her, including you. I'll yield you to her as well." The next morning, Ian Zhou said he wanted to take me out to lift my spirits. I had no mood for it and refused him outright. He didn't say much more, but by noon, he had sent someone with my favorite lanterns. It was almost our silent pact. Whenever I was downhearted, he would gift me lanterns and invite me to cruise the lake. Looking at the lanterns, I ultimately decided to keep the appointment. Yet halfway there, I overheard passing eunuchs and palace maids whispering, "Have you heard? The seventh princess merely stumbled a little." And Shitsi Zhou panicked, as if he'd gone mad. Indeed, the two of them seemed to be nearing a happy union. Look, they've gone boating on the lake together. Their gossip left me in a daze. During the most unbearable days after Mother Empress's passing, it was Ian Zhou who stayed by my side. Back then, I knew, well, that Mother Empress had fallen out of favor with Father Emperor, leading to her melancholy end. So I stubbornly demanded Ian Zhou prove I was his one and only. He once solemnly promised to go boating with me alone, but when I reached the lakeside, the sight before me stung deeply. Liana Jiang sat pressed close to Ian Zhou, their posture intimate. Ian Zhou looked up and saw me, his expression clearly flustered. Yet Liana Jiang spoke, with a cheerful smile. "Elder sister, you've come? Father Emperor has tasked me with preparing for marriage. It seems I am the one destined for the marriage alliance, after all. Elder sister, are you satisfied now?" Ian Zhou's gaze turned icy in an instant, and he demanded sharply, "You promised me you wouldn't force Liana into the marriage alliance." "I said I would marry you. What more could you possibly want?" Liana Zhang's eyes also reddened as she stepped forward. "Elder sister, I'm willing to take on the responsibility of the marriage alliance, but I just can't bear to part with the heir, so I came to say goodbye. Please don't be angry. Elder sister, grant me some time to compose myself. Will you?" As she spoke, tears streamed down her cheeks. Ian Zhou's voice was full of disappointment. "Haley Jiang, must you push Liana to her breaking point? When did you become so cold-hearted and ruthless?" I looked at him, feeling only strangeness. "And what about you? Are you still the Ian Zhou I once knew? He scoffed, exhaustion evident. Enough. You always have your justifications. Since you refuse to help Liana, I will stop her from going through with this marriage alliance. Hearing this, Liana, Jiang turned pale, tears flooding like a spring. You mustn't. To do so would be to defy an imperial edict. She collapsed, sobbing, into Ian Zhou's arms, and a flicker of cold mockery passed through my eyes. Seeing my indifference, Ian Zhou grabbed my wrist fiercely. Your sister has fainted from fear, and you still have the mind to go boating? If anything happens to her, I see no reason for our engagement to remain valid. I closed my eyes for a moment. When my eyes reopened, their depths were cold as ice. Let go, I said, my voice eerily calm. Veins bulged on his forehead. Haley Jiang, do you actually want to watch her die? I promised your mother Empress I'd protect you, but that doesn't mean I'll tolerate you repeatedly harming Liana. He grew more agitated with each word, as if transported back to our countless heated arguments from our past life. My tone remained flat. I've grown up now. I don't need your protection. Go protect her instead. As if remembering something, Ian Zhou lowered his head and spoke in a deep voice. I'm sorry. Your Majesty has always considered your well-being, but the seventh, Your Highness, in this world, I'm all she has to rely on. I struggled to compose myself and turned to return to the palace. Just then, Liana Jiang, who had gradually regained consciousness, followed me onto my carriage. The carriage had barely traveled any distance when sudden chaos erupted. Several sharp arrows pierced through the air. My heart sank. This is bad. Someone must be trying to sabotage the marriage alliance by assassinating the princess. The guards drew their swords to confront the attackers, but were systematically cut down by the assassins. Liana Jiang turned pale with terror. Ian Zhou reacted instantly, leaping onto the carriage. Seeing this, Liana Jiang threw herself into his arms and clung to him desperately, instinctively shielding her in his embrace. Ian Zhou urgently said to me, Your Highness's guards are highly skilled. I must get 7th Princess to safety first, and will return at once to rescue you. Before the words faded, he had already leaped from the carriage with Liana Jiang in his arms. In that very instant, a cold arrow tore through the air and pierced my chest with brutal force. Excruciating pain surged through my body, forcing uncontrollable tears to my eyes. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed my vision was Ian Zhou holding Liana Jiang, disappearing without a backward glance into the chaotic dust. I struggled to lift my heavy eyelids. My blurred vision gradually focused, recognizing the familiar palace chambers. The imperial physician said it was fortunate the arrow had veered slightly. Ian Zhou kept vigil by the bedside, dark circles heavy under his eyes. He had driven 2 swift horses to exhaustion day and night, racing to find herbs to treat my arrow wound. At this moment, he carefully brought the medicine bowl to my lips. The liquid slid down my throat, yet failed to warm my desolate heart. A palace attendant outside the hall reported in a hushed tone, Shitzi Zhou, Your Majesty requests your presence. Ian Zhou meticulously tucked in my quilt corners and said gently, Rest assured, I'll return shortly. I parted my lips, but ultimately lowered my gaze, swallowing all unspoken words. When he returned, his steps were unsteady and faint, carrying lingering cold from outdoors. As expected, Father Emperor had meted out punishment, summoned the imperial physician. My voice emerged hoarse. He abruptly cut me off, eyes reddening. Your Highness, His Majesty, he's blaming 7th Princess entirely for your assassination attempt because she left the palace without permission. He vows severe punishment. I gave a wry smile. You want me to plead for her? Surely you know Father Emperor's temper? When has he ever tolerated dissent once his mind is set? Ian Zhou froze for a moment, then actually dropped to his knees. If you would just speak up, even a single fleeting word, His Majesty would surely soften. The 7th Princess. She merely indulges in fun somewhat excessively, without any ill intent, never meaning to implicate Your Highness to this extent. He's kneeling to me again. For Liana Jiang, he knows full well how much I detest him bowing to me. My gaze swept over that slender scar at the corner of his right eye. It was a mark left when I, at 15, fell from a tall tree while playing recklessly, and he threw himself without hesitation to save me, getting cut by shattered stones. He once risked his life for me, but what if it had been Liana Jiang who fell from the tree that day? What if she had been in danger? The answer was on the verge of bursting forth. A heavy ache surged in my nose, my vision slightly blurring. I looked at him, my voice as light as a breeze, ready to scatter at any moment. Ian Zhou, thank you for risking your life to save me back then. Since Mother Empress passed away, it's been so very long since I last felt that warmth of someone shielding me with all their might. I know, all these years, my persistence, my demands, must have exhausted and troubled you greatly, haven't they? My gaze fell upon his still, red-and-eye corners and tightly pressed lips. Actually, I'm tired too. I don't want to fight anymore. From now on, never again. I will soon leave this place forever. Ian Zhou's lips trembled as if he wanted to say something more. Suddenly, a guard hurried into the hall and whispered urgently into his ear. The words "seventh princess" clearly drifted to my ears. It must be Liana Jiang, anxiously searching for him after learning about his punishment. Apology flashed in Ian Zhou's eyes as he spoke rapidly. Your Highness, this subject has urgent matters and will return to see you shortly. He didn't even wait for my response before abruptly rising. Though his steps were unsteady, he strode swiftly toward the hall's exit without looking back. That direction led precisely to Liana Jiang's palace. Once I could walk again, the first thing I did was gather every single item Ian Zhou had given me over the years and cast them all into the blazing charcoal furnace. The flames licked greedily at the offerings, their fierce light dancing and burning in my eyes. I stood silently, watching those once cherished possessions twist and curl in the inferno, turning to flakes of ash, just like the lingering thoughts I had of him. Amid the swirling ashes, Ian Zhou stepped into the hall. Your health hasn't fully recovered yet. Why such a fierce fire? He frowned, his tone carrying habitual concern as his gaze swept over the furnace. I just felt cold, that's all. My voice was light as a sigh as I turned and walked toward the embroidery frame. Spread across the frame was a crimson wedding gown. According to custom, the bride must complete the final stitches herself to pray for a lifetime of happiness. I picked up the gold thread brocade left to me by the Mother Empress, ready to use it to add the final splendor to the wedding gown. As Ian Zhou approached and saw the wedding gown, his expression seemed to soften. The wedding date is still far off. Why such haste? The words "wedding date" pierced my heart like a fine needle, striking without warning. A sudden sharp pain at my fingertip, and a crimson bead of blood instantly bloomed into a glaring dark flower on the wedding gown. How could there be any far off? In 10 days, I would embark on the journey to the distant Nanzhao kingdom for the marriage alliance. Seeing this, Momo Lu gasped and rushed over, her trembling hand touching the bloodstain, tears streaming down her aged face. Princess, a blood-stained wedding gown. It's an ill omen. Her voice choked and hoarse. The mountains are high and the waters far. How will we manage this? I abruptly raised my head, biting my lower lip hard, forcing back the surging bitterness from my eyes. To marry far away in a foreign land, bidding eternal farewell to my homeland. To say I'm not afraid would be a lie. Suppressing the sob in my throat, I struggled to keep my voice steady, comforting the weeping Momo Lu. Set your heart at ease. Momo, I carry the royal fortune with me. I will surely remain safe and sound. For some reason, Zhou Yenny's eyes also glistened with moisture as he listened to the crying. Gazing at me intently, his voice low and solemn, he said, Your Highness, do not worry. I will immediately seek out the finest embroiderers to rush. Make a brand new wedding gown for your Highness, ensuring you have a magnificent and glorious wedding. He seemed convinced that the imperial edict was for our bestowed marriage. Complex emotions flickered in my eyes as I replied coldly, That won't be necessary. Zhou Yenny fell silent for a moment before speaking in a grave tone, as if trying to make amends. During the last assassination attempt, Failing to protect your highness completely was this subject's fault. Your highness, please do not be angry anymore. I looked up and asked softly, so, you actually weren't truly afraid that I might die, were you? His expression froze abruptly, as if struck by those words, and he urgently replied, how could your highness say such a thing? How could this subject not be afraid? I swear, I will never let your highness fall into such danger again. I pressed further. Then what if one day I were to leave this place forever, leave you, and go somewhere you can never find me? Ian Zhou's brows furrowed abruptly, a flicker of alarm flashing in his eyes as he urgently interrupted me. Your highness, what do you mean by that? I slowly shook my head, swallowing back all the unspoken words. Never mind. After a brief silence, Ian Zhou seemed to collect his thoughts, his voice lowering further. This subject will certainly marry your highness, and will do everything to prevent the 7th princess's marriage alliance. However, he took a deep breath. If it proves unavoidable, and the 7th princess must marry far from home, I beg your highness to indulge her more and look after her. For the sake of sisterly affection, the 7th princess has recently been embroidering her wedding gown, often thinking of the late empress, feeling deeply melancholy. That piece of gold, thread brocade in your highness's possession, could you part with it for her? Again, for her, every time, every approach and word, it's always about Liana Jiang. I am truly weary of it. Shitzi Zhou. Momo Lu trembled with rage, scolding sharply. The princess is about to be married. Why must you press so relentlessly and go too far? I raised my hand to stop Momo Lu, my voice calm and detached, as if discussing something unrelated to myself. I will send someone to deliver it. If the crown prince has no other matters, please take your leave. Ian Zhou gave me a deep look, then finally bowed and turned to leave. The moment his figure vanished beyond the palace doors, a sharp, sour bitterness surged up my throat. I clenched my teeth tightly, forcing it all back down. Momo Lu patted my back with aching heart, her voice trembling. Your highness, why didn't you tell the crown prince that you are the one chosen for the marriage alliance? I slowly shook my head, gazing toward the distant palace towers outside the window. I begged Father Emperor to keep it secret. Only this way can we uncover how many of Nanzhao Kingdom's spies are hidden in this court. My little grievance means nothing compared to the stability of the realm. However, before I could send someone to deliver the gold, thread brocade, Liana Jiang had already intercepted my path in the Imperial Garden. She dismissed all my attendants, lifted her skirts, and charged directly up to me. Haley Jiang, she shrieked, her hand clamping down viciously on my wrist. What are you trying to do? Why do you keep seeking out Ian Zhou in private? Over and over again, I shook off her hand forcefully, my voice icy. What, want to kill me? I stepped closer, staring into her instantly constricted pupils. But you should know, if I die, that marriage alliance palanquin will be carried straight through your palace gates. Liana Jiang, her secret fear exposed, blazed with even greater fury in her eyes, shrilling, yes, I know, it's you who's meant to go to that barbaric land. But you clearly know Ian Zhou is going to marry me. Why do you keep haunting him like a ghost? Her chest heaved violently, all traces of maidenly charm gone from her face, replaced only by crazed ferocity. You still refuse to give up on him, don't you? Fine, very well. Then today, I'll help you crush that hope for good. Spotting the edge of Ian Zhou's robe, Liana Jiang gave a cold laugh and dragged us both into the lake. The panicked cries of the maids on shore twisted and blurred through the water. I couldn't swim. The icy lake water flooded my mouth and nose, the suffocating sensation like iron pincers clamping my throat. I struggled desperately, but my limbs grew heavier and heavier. Amid the chaos, I saw Ian Zhou. He plunged into the water but swam straight toward Liana Jiang. Watching him protect her as they slowly swam toward the shore, despair completely overwhelmed me, and my consciousness sank into boundless darkness. After falling into the water, I began to run a fever, nightmares shadowing me relentlessly. dragging me back to my past life again and again. A piercing whistle tore through the sky. In that split second, a powerful force yanked me into an embrace, shielding me heavily beneath it. Ian Zhou, I struggled to rise in shock, but my palm pressed against a warm, sticky wetness on his chest. A sharp arrow had pierced straight through his chest. Blood stained my fingertips and dyed my entire world crimson. Seeing his instantly pale face, immense terror seized my heart. The pain so intense I could barely breathe. My voice broke, carrying a plea I had never uttered before. Ian Zhou, please don't die. The scene shattered abruptly, and I jolted awake from the nightmare, my face cold and streaked with tears. I curled up, clutching the icy quilt tightly, suppressed sobs echoing softly in the silent bedchamber. Rising, I dipped my brush in ink and wrote a letter to Ian Zhou. In my youth, my heart stirred for you, filled with boundless joy. I still remember you saying you would become the mightiest general, protecting me as the most noble princess. A maiden's heart was wholly entrusted to you. You were the one who first drew me in, and I was the one who clung to you. Deep down, I always knew your heart belonged to Leonie, and I should have let go. But I was greedy for the warmth you once gave me. I couldn't bear to part with it. But I was greedy for the warmth you once gave me. I couldn't bear to part with it. Little did I know that very warmth would ultimately cost me my life. In this second life, I am unwilling, and I dare not love you again. Finished. I smiled with relief. I handed the letter to my trusted palace maid, instructing her to deliver it after my departure. Your Highness, you. The maid looked at my tear-streaked face, her eyes filled with concern. It's nothing. I shook my head gently, my voice calm. You may go. As soon as she withdrew, Liana Jiang and Ian Zhou arrived together. Liana Jiang hurried forward, feigning concern as she reached to check my temperature. I instinctively sidestepped, and she seized the moment to cry out dramatically, collapsing heavily to the ground. Liana, Ian Zhou rushed forward, helping her up with visible tension, his heartache plain to see. Are you hurt? Liana Jiang nestled in his arms, lifting her tearful face, her voice choked with emotion. Elder sister, I know you dislike me, but we share the same bloodline. I am to be married soon, and only wish to reconcile with you before leaving the palace. Ian Zhou gently patted her back, soothing her softly. Liana Jiang's gaze fell upon the hairpin in my hair, her voice suddenly sorrowful. Elder sister, that day when I fell into the water, before losing consciousness, I faintly saw the figure of Mother Empress. It must have been her divine intervention that saved me. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded mournfully. Elder sister, I'm about to leave. Please let me keep this hairpin left by Mother Empress as a memento. Ian Zhou took one look at her tear-streaked, pear-blossom-like face and immediately pulled out a silk handkerchief, wiping her tears with utmost tenderness. Then, he actually turned to me and said, Your Highness, that was the only keepsake my mother left me. Was he actually helping her take it from me? A wave of overwhelming grief and fury rushed to my head, trembling all over. I grabbed the teacup beside me and hurled at him with all my strength. Get out. My shrill scream pierced the hall. All of you, get out. The teacup struck his temple directly, shattering with a piercing sound. Blood instantly gushed out, trickling down along his brow in a horrifying sight. As if scorched by the hatred in my eyes, he dared not meet my gaze, merely bowing his head in disarray and uttering hoarsely, Your Highness, rest well. I slowly closed my eyes, letting the boundless sorrow consume me completely. In my past life, you took an arrow for me. In this life, you abandoned me to death twice. Whether it's gratitude or resentment, from this moment on, we are even. In 2 more days, the envoys from Nanzhao Kingdom will arrive. I calmly bid farewell to each of my old friends one by one, distributing all the treasures from the treasury to the palace servants who had served me diligently over the years. Thus, I have no more attachments. On the day of the marriage alliance, clad in a magnificent yet heavy wedding gown, I performed the kowtow ceremony to Father Emperor for the last time. Just as I rose and was about to step over the threshold of the grand hall, a hand suddenly seized my wrist. Father Emperor's voice trembled as never before, like a string stretched to its limit. "Queen, don't go. I won't let you go. I would stake this empire, stake my very life, to protect you." I clasped back at those hands shaking violently with emotion, mustering all my strength to curve my lips, attempting to show the brightest smile. "Father Emperor, your daughter is a princess of the Jing Dynasty. Matters of state come first. How can I be willful? The auspicious hour has arrived." The eunuch's shrill voice severed the last thread of warmth. The palanquin curtain fell, cutting off the sight of Father Emperor's suddenly aged face. The towering city gates came into view. The envoy procession from Nanzhao Kingdom had already formed ranks awaiting our arrival. The clear sky from moments ago now drizzled with fine rain. Hundreds of officials followed behind, the atmosphere solemn and oppressive. Ian Zhou stood among them, his gaze involuntarily fixed upon that glaringly conspicuous wedding palanquin. An inexplicable palpitation seized him violently, his palms already aching from how deeply his nails had dug into them. He was mired deep in self, reproach for failing to prevent the seventh princess's marriage alliance. Yet that ominous foreboding in his heart grew like rampant vines, nearly consuming him whole. He anxiously scanned his surroundings, as if searching for some answer to explain this unease. Yet his eyes found no focus. Suddenly, his vision snapped sharply to the shadows at the side of the city tower. Liana Jiang, she stood right there, even waving at him. "Liana?" Ian Zhou's blood seemed to freeze instantly, his pupils contracting sharply. "She's here? Then who is sitting inside the bridal sedan?" An icy chill shot from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. At that very moment, a gust of wind laden with rain swept fiercely through. The red bridal veil was violently lifted at one corner by the wind. Through the misty curtain of rain, Ian Zhou finally saw the all-too familiar face inside the sedan, beneath the phoenix crown and ceremonial robes. The one about to marry far away to Nanzhao Kingdom was not Liana Jiang, but rather fifth princess Haley Jiang. Haley. His body stiffened, his steps faltered, and he stumbled before crashing heavily to the ground. "No, impossible. This can't be happening. How could it be? How could Haley Jiang be the one in the marriage alliance?" He was clearly preparing for their wedding. He had even spent a fortune to hire the most renowned embroiderer from Jiangnan. He must stop all this. Now, immediately, Ian Zhou sprang up from the ground, charging recklessly toward that glaring bridal sedan. He roared, "Stop, Queen!" He snatched a horse from a nearby guard, practically throwing himself onto its back, and lashed it fiercely. The steed whinnied in pain and charged toward the wedding procession. "Stop him!" the Imperial Guard commander thundered. Well-trained Imperial Guards instantly formed an iron wall, trapping Ian Zhou and his horse tightly at the center. The lead commander's face was cold as steel. "Your Highness the heir, dismount at once. The fifth princess is departing at the auspicious hour for her marriage alliance by imperial decree. No one may disturb this." Ian Zhou yanked the reins, forcing the horse to rear. His eyes nearly burst with rage, voice hoarse and distorted. "Get out of my way. I must see the fifth princess." Several mountain-like imperial guards moved simultaneously, clamping down on Ian Zhou like iron vices. Overwhelming force dragged him brutally from the horse. His arms twisted harshly behind his back, forcing him to his knees. "Let go of me. Let go." He stood rooted, his gaze nailed to the distant bridal sedan growing smaller. "Your Highness." "Haley Jiang." "Stop. I beg you. Stop." His desperate cries were met only by the shrinking silhouette of the sedan, about to vanish through the city gate. "Young Master Ian," the Imperial Guard tightened their grip. "This marriage alliance was decreed by your Majesty's own hand. Defy an imperial edict with such reckless words, and it will be treason. Do not drag us down with you." Ian Zhou jerked his head up, eyes bloodshot. What of the imperial edict from before? "Your Majesty's own word bestowed the fifth princess, Haley Jiang, to me in marriage. How can you go back on your promise? Break your word? The Imperial Guard commander's face darkened. He wasted no more words, barking sharply, "Take him away, to the dungeons to await trial." Ian Zhou was dragged away roughly. He strained to turn his head, his eyes fixed desperately on the city gate, where nothing remained. "Stop, Liana." Jiang hurried to the commander's side and whispered urgently. The commander hesitated, weighed the situation briefly, then finally waved his hand to signal his men to release him. The restraints suddenly loosened. Ian Zhou stumbled a step, his body swaying, his face pale as paper, his eyes hollow as if his soul had been drained, staring desolately toward the city gate. Ian Zhou, Liana, Jiang rushed before him, her voice shrill. Seeing him utterly unresponsive, she abruptly raised her hand, mustering all her strength, her sharp nails digging viciously into the flesh of his arm, nearly drawing blood. "Ian Zhou, snap out of it. Look at me. I am your betrothed, bestowed by the imperial edict, rightful and proper. Haley Jiang is gone. She abandoned you." She nearly roared, each word lashing like a whip against his heart. The intense sting finally made Ian Zhou's hollow eyes shift slightly, focusing bewilderedly on Liana Jiang's face. "What did you say?" He seized another horse and galloped back to his residence like a madman. Bursting into the study, he tremblingly unrolled the imperial edict. Beside the deep crimson imperial seal, the crystal, clear name burned fiercely into his vision. Liana Jiang. From beginning to end, the imperial edict of bestowed marriage bore only Liana Jiang's name. So that's how it is. Then all this time, what has he done to Haley Jiang? Gosh. Ian Zhou spat out a mouthful of blood. "Young master," the steward's trembling voice sounded at the door as he held out a letter, delivered just now by someone from His Highness the Fifth Prince's palace. Ian Zhou whirled around and snatched the letter. His hands shook so violently he could barely tear open the envelope. When he finally saw the familiar handwriting on the letter, boom, it was as if a thunderclap exploded in his mind. He read it over and over again. Impossible. Haley loved me so much. How could she not want me anymore? In this second life, I am unwilling and dare not love you again. He could no longer hold himself up and collapsed heavily to the floor. Scalding tears surged forth silently, blurring everything before his eyes. His mind was flooded with memories of the past. The proud little princess, at age 5, hiding behind the empress to peek at him, playfully sticking out her tongue and making funny faces. At 8, seeing him injured from martial arts training, she clumsily bandaged him up, wrapping him like an immovable rice dumpling, yet insisted with a scrunched nose. "It's because you're too fat." That breathtaking moment at 15, when he caught her falling from the tree with steady arms. She clung to his neck, laughing as she said, "Ian Zhou, I want to marry you. Then I won't be a princess anymore. I just want to be with you, forever together." "Why?" "Because you can protect me. Ian Zhou, you have to protect me like this always. Otherwise, I won't want you anymore." Indeed, she didn't want him anymore. Ian Zhou choked back a sob and raised his head, his eyes revealing helplessness. The one who couldn't see his own heart was him. "Huh!" A cry of utmost agony tore from his throat. His head began throbbing violently as fragmented images flashed before his eyes. The bright red candles cast a warm, glowing crimson throughout the bedchamber. The elaborate Nanjiao rituals finally concluded, the clamor fading away, leaving only the whisper of wind and snow outside the window. Heavy footsteps approached from afar. The bridal veil was abruptly lifted, and I looked up to me a pair of deep, hawk-like eyes. King Kalen's tall figure nearly blocked the candlelight as he spoke. "Fifth Princess, you've waited long." My nervousness inexplicably eased slightly as I mustered a gentle smile, meeting his gaze. "Great King may call me by my name, Haley Jiang." He complied and sat down, his broad shoulders nearly touching mine. The Nanjiao wedding cups were rugged silver vessels. He picked up one and handed it to me, his movements slightly awkward, as our arms intertwined and we drank the spicy yet warming liquor. I felt the tension in his muscular arm, setting down the wine cup. He fell silent for a moment, his hawk-like eyes resting on my face, as if weighing his words. I know, he spoke again, his voice deeper and hoarser than before, carrying an almost clumsy tenderness. You delicate Central Plains folk aren't accustomed to this climate. The winds here bite, the snow chills, and the food is coarse. He paused, as though steeling himself with great resolve, before continuing, but whatever you desire, tell me, I will procure it all for you. The last few words came out somewhat rushed, as if he were unaccustomed to such direct attempts to please. The contrast with his decisive, battle-hardened demeanor was so striking that warmth flooded my heart, and I couldn't resist reaching out to gently embrace his lean, sturdy waist. Your Majesty's kindness, Queen understands. I murmured softly against his shoulder. Rest assured, I will learn to love this land and its people, just as you do. This is my duty as a marriage alliance princess, and also my wish to share your burdens. I could feel his body stiffen slightly before gradually relaxing. A large, calloused hand with distinct knuckles gently covered mine, resting on his waist. Its movement tentative and tender. He said nothing more, only holding me tighter against his chest. The red candles crackled softly. Outside the hall, the snowstorm raged on, but within, only the gradually merging rhythms of our breaths and heartbeats remained. King Kaelin's words, whatever you desire, tell me, and I shall procure it for you, were no idle promise made on a whim. Somehow, he had heard that noble ladies of the Central Plains could not endure winter without delicate hand warmers. Thus, within days, there appeared on my desk an enormous, brass, crafted hand warmer, nearly the size of a small brazier. The charcoal within blazed fiercely, radiating intense heat. The maids stifled their laughter, and even the usually stern elder court officials twitched at the corners of their mouths. Yet King Kaelin himself noticed nothing, gazing at me with expectant pride. This will keep you warm. The artisans of Nanzhao Kingdom forged it overnight, far more practical than those dainty trinkets from your Central Plains. I looked at the brazier that required 2 maids to carry, torn between laughter and tears. Yet warmth blossomed in my heart. I took his hand, my fingertips brushing over a faint red mark, where he might have been scalped while supervising, and said softly, Great King went through such trouble. It's very warm. Queen likes it very much. His ears flushed slightly, as he replied gruffly, As long as you like it. Nor did I slow my own pace. My drive to learn the Nanzhao language grew even stronger. From initial stumbling, I progressed to fluently conversing with maids and palace attendants, even understanding parts of court discussions. I began trying to express simple concern to King Kaelin in Nanzhao. Great King, the wind and snow are heavy today. Have a bowl of hot soup after the council? Each time he heard it, a glimmer lit his eyes, though he only grunted in reply. He clearly drank the soup faster, and King Kaelin's way of showing happiness was even more straightforward. He sent riders post-haste to buy what was reputedly the most authentic Central Plains pastries from a town 1,000 miles away on the Jing Dynasty border. When the exquisite food box was presented to me, the pastries inside had long been shattered beyond recognition from the jostling and bitter cold, with frosting and fillings mixed together in a pitiful mess. Kaelin stared at the box of pastry mush, his thick brows tightly furrowed, his hawk-like eyes filled with frustration and displeasure, as if he had lost a battle. Yet I couldn't bear to dismiss his gesture. Using a small silver spoon, I scooped up a bit to taste, my eyes curving into smiles. Great King, though its appearance has changed, the flavor remains. It tastes like home. I am truly delighted. He watched me for a long moment, confirming I wasn't merely comforting him, then snorted, Next time, I'll make them run faster. Later, by some method unknown to me, he actually managed to have the pastries delivered in relatively intact condition. Only, when he saw my contented expression as I savored each small bite, did the stern line of his mouth curl into a faint, satisfied smile. By the time Ian Zhou rushed to Nanzhao, I had already spent my first New Year there. The side hall was vast and slightly chilled by a creeping cold. Ian Zhou stood with his back turned, his silhouette as bleak as withered trees in late autumn. At the sound of footsteps, he whirled around abruptly. In just a few months, he had become gaunt and haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. The former elegance of the young, noble utterly gone, like a string stretched taut and ready to snap. "Queen," he rasped, stumbling forward, his eyes filled with drowning remorse and a near death desperation. "I've finally found you." I halted a few steps away, nodding distantly. "Shitsi Zhou," as if struck a heavy blow. He paled and urgently pleaded, "Don't call me that. It's me. I remember everything now. I was blind. I wronged you. I was the one who pushed you onto that marriage alliance bridal sedan. You are my wife. 20 years of marital bonds shouldn't end like this. Come with me. I'll risk my life too." "Ian Zhou," I cut off his confession. "Your wife is Liana Jiang, by imperial edict, and I have already used my departure to Chongchen you both. Now, my life is in Nanzhao Kingdom." "No, that's wrong." His eyes widened with rage, bloodshot veins prominent. "I was blind at heart, unwilling to admit I loved you. Queen, come back with me. Let's start over." "Ian Zhou," I interrupted him again, each word clear and distinct. "I don't love you anymore." Tears welled in his eyes. "Queen, I deserve to die 1,000 deaths. I beg you, give me a chance to atone." "Enough, Ian Zhou. Let it go." I looked at him. Drowning in regret is meaningless. In Nanzhao Kingdom, I found my path. I love the vastness of these grasslands, the smiles the people show me. All I seek in this life is for the people of Jing Dynasty and Nanzhao Kingdom to suffer less from war and displacement. This is my path, my choice. You, go live your life. No more regrets needed. "My regret is you," he roared. "It's watching you walk away from me. It's failing to hold on to you. Queen, give me one more chance. Just one." His hoarse pleas echoed through the hall, but I stood still as ice, unmoved and unshaken. Only when he choked with exhaustion, tears shattering in his eyes, did I speak slowly. "Ian Zhou, you say you remember everything. Then, do you know, in our past life, we had a child?" He froze abruptly, pupils trembling violently, staring at me in utter bewilderment. I watched as the color drained from his face in an instant. "It was you who imprisoned me in the villa because of Liana Zhang's death. You who allowed your subordinates to humiliate me. And it was you who ended its life with your own hands. It vanished without a sound, and I can never bear children again. A small life now stands between us. I think it wouldn't want to see us entangled again either. Child." Broken syllables tore from his throat as he staggered against a pillar, his body sliding down the cold surface before curling on the floor. His hands clutched his head desperately, suppressed, beast, like sobs wrenching from the depths of his throat. I took one last look at him. "Take care." The words fell softly, devoid of lingering attachment. I turned and strode resolutely out of the side hall. King Kalen stood, waiting under the twilight in the corridor, his shoulders dusted with fine snow, his gaze heavy and fixed on me. I walked toward him and raised a hand to brush the frost from his shoulder. He clasped my icy fingers tightly in his warm, large palm. "Resolved?" he asked softly. "Yes." I leaned lightly against him. "It's all over now." He said no more, only tightening his grip on my hand, and without a word, wrapped me firmly in his heavy cloak. "The snowstorm is fierce. Let's return to the palace." After that night, Ian Zhou never appeared in the Nanzhao Kingdom again. Sporadic news later came that he fell gravely ill, and after recovering, became withdrawn, devoting himself solely to military and state affairs. He maintained a cold respect with Liana Jiang and never took a concubine for the rest of his life. The nights in Nanzhao remained cold, the snowstorm still fierce, but my heart had taken deep root in this land. Years later, on another snowy day, I closed my eyes in King Kalen's warm palm and passed away peacefully. This life began with a mistaken marriage, but ended in fulfillment. The title of Princess of Jing Dynasty ultimately became a symbol of peace for Nanzhao. A sacrificed destiny blossomed into a meaning beyond a mere marriage alliance. I enabled Ian Zhou's fulfillment and also crafted my own regret. free path home. The snowstorm has not ceased, but the promise of spring is within reach.